John Miller stood at the window of his small quarters aboard the space station Centauri Prime. The blue-green gas giant below filled the view, its swirling storms reminding him of Jupiter back home. 5 years. Humans had been part of the Galactic Council for just 5 years, and most days John felt the weight of that newness. The communication panel on his wall beeped. "Ambassador Miller, the council session begins in 30 minutes, said the smooth, artificial voice of his assistant AI. "Thank you, Penny," John replied, straightening his dark blue uniform with gold trim. The official Earth Diplomatic Corps attire. He picked up his datapad and reviewed his notes one more time. Today would change everything, if he could make them listen. The corridor outside his quarters buzzed with activity. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved with purpose, some floating, others crawling along specialized pathways on the walls. A pair of Centauri with their crystalline bodies nodded respectfully as John passed. He returned the gesture, having learned that particular custom months ago. "Ambassador Miller," called a familiar voice. John turned to see Sam Baker, his deputy, hurrying toward him. Sam's red hair was neatly combed, but his eyes showed signs of another late night. "The latest reports from the Orion border colonies just came in," Sam said, handing John another datapad. 3 more trading ships destroyed. 17 dead, including 2 children. John's jaw tightened. Any response from the Council Security Committee? The same. "They're evaluating the situation." Sam's voice dripped with frustration. 3 months of evaluation while people die, John muttered. They entered the massive dome of the Grand Council chamber. 27 raised platforms formed a perfect circle, each bearing the flag and representatives of a council member species. Earth's platform, the newest and smallest, sat between the ancient Voldran Imperium and the hive-minded Kulari. John took his seat as the chamber filled. The central holographic display activated, showing the council speaker, Ambassador Zixtal of the Morvian Republic. His 8 eyes blinked in sequence as he called the session to order. "Representatives of the 27 worlds, we gather again in peace and unity," Zixtal began, his translator converting his clicking speech to standard galactic basic. "Our first matter concerns the continued incidents in the Orion sector." John leaned forward. Finally, the Valoran representative spoke first, her tentacles waving gracefully. "These are unfortunate events, but local authorities should handle them. The Council cannot be bothered with every pirate attack in the outer systems." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. John felt his blood pressure rising. "The Security Committee recommends increased alert status and a formal condemnation of the attacks," said the Centauri representative, his crystal body glinting under the chamber lights. More nods, more agreement, more nothing. John pressed the button requesting to speak. The small light on his console blinked for nearly a minute before the speaker acknowledged him. "The Council recognizes Earth," Zixtal said, a hint of reluctance in his voice. John stood. "Representatives of the Council, Earth has listened patiently for 3 months, while ships burn and people die. The pirates in the Orion sector are not simple criminals. They are organized, well-armed, and growing bolder. Your increased alert status has done nothing." Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Kulari representative buzzed angrily. "With respect, Ambassador Miller," said the ancient Dovan representative, "Earth has been spacefaring for barely a century. Perhaps you should observe more and speak less on matters of galactic security." John smiled tightly. Perhaps that fresh perspective is exactly what's needed. While the Council debates, Earth has been analyzing the attack patterns and gathering intelligence. He activated his datapad, sending files to the central display. Maps of the Orion sector appeared, with attack locations marked in red. These are not random attacks. They're systematic, clearing a specific travel corridor. And your standard patrols are useless because they follow predictable routes that the pirates easily avoid. The chamber grew quiet. Some representatives leaned forward with interest. Others looked offended. "Earth proposes a solution," John continued. A joint military task force with ships from all willing council species, using human tactical coordination to hunt down and eliminate this threat. The chamber erupted into chaos. Several representatives shouted at once. Zixtal banged his gavel for order. You propose that humans, the youngest, least advanced species, should lead a military operation. The Valoran representative's voice cut through the noise, dripping with disdain. John looked around the chamber, meeting the alien eyes, stalks, and sensory organs that stared back at him. Yes, he said simply. That's exactly what I propose. And with those words, the calm order of the Galactic Council began to crack. The council chamber remained in uproar for several minutes. John stood calmly at his podium, while insults and objections flew around him. The Valoran representative's face tentacles had turned a deep purple, a sign of extreme agitation in her species. Speaker Zixtal finally restored order by activating the chamber's sound-dampening field, forcing everyone into silence. Ambassador Miller, Zixtal said when he released the field, your proposal is unprecedented. No species has ever suggested such a thing within their first decade of council membership. John nodded. Perhaps that's why piracy continues to flourish. The council has become predictable. A low murmur spread through the chamber. The Dovin elder, his skin like ancient parchment, leaned forward on gnarled limbs. You claim humans can succeed where species with thousands of years of space travel experience have failed. Yes, John replied simply. The directness of his answer caused another stir. The main doors to the chamber slid open. Samantha Wright entered, carrying several data cubes. As Earth's chief military analyst, her presence had been requested but not expected. Several alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Council recognizes Analyst Wright of Earth, Speaker Zixtal said reluctantly. Samantha nodded respectfully and placed the data cubes in the central reader. The holographic display filled with images of destroyed ships, grieving alien families, and devastated colony outposts. These attacks follow a pattern that your standard response cannot address, Samantha said, her voice steady. The pirates know your protocols, your patrol routes, and your response times. They act accordingly. And humans would do what differently? Asked the Kulari representative, his insect-like mandibles clicking with skepticism. Samantha smiled. Unpredictability. Adaptive tactics. And most importantly, taking the fight to them instead of waiting for them to strike. She displayed a new set of maps showing suspected pirate bases. Your military vessels are impressive but inflexible. Your crews follow ancient battle doctrines that haven't changed in centuries. Humans adapt. We improvise. We overcome. The Zentari representative's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. Bold words from a species that was limited to chemical rockets a mere century ago. John stepped forward again. Perhaps our rapid advancement should tell you something. What took many of your species 1,000 years, we accomplished in less than 100. An uncomfortable silence fell across the chamber. I have received a transmission, announced the Morvian representative suddenly. Another colony in the Orion sector has been attacked. 42 dead. The pirates took everything of value and destroyed life support on their way out. Images of the devastation appeared on the central display. Bodies of various alien species floated in zero gravity, their deaths clearly painful as they gasped for air. John looked at each council member in turn. While we debate, they kill. While you follow your ancient protocols, more will die. Earth is willing to commit ships and personnel immediately. The Valoran ambassador rose to her full height, nearly 3 meters tall. This is nothing but a power grab. Humans want to use this crisis to elevate their standing. We want to stop the killing, John replied evenly. If you have a better solution that can be implemented immediately, I'm listening. No one spoke. The ancient Dovin elder tapped a gnarled finger against his console. I propose we table this discussion until tomorrow. Let us all consider the human proposal with clear minds. Speaker Zixtal seemed relieved. The council will reconvene tomorrow. Ambassador Miller, please prepare a detailed briefing on your proposed operation. As the chamber emptied, Samantha approached John. That went better than expected. John shook his head. They're just buying time to find a way to reject our proposal without looking incompetent. Ambassador Miller called a soft voice. They turned to see Malak, one of the oldest council members, his blue skin wrinkled with age. The elder Paxian looked around carefully before speaking. Meet me in the Garden of Reflection in 1 hour. There is something you should know about council law regarding military actions. Before John could respond, Malak glided away, his robes barely touching the floor. What was that about? Samantha asked. John smiled slightly. I think we just found an ally. The Garden of Reflection floated in a transparent bubble attached to the outer ring of Centauri Prime. Plants from dozens of worlds grew in careful arrangements, creating a peaceful space where council members could escape the noise of politics. John arrived first, pausing to admire a blue flower that seemed to shimmer and change shape as he watched. Earth plants were still considered too aggressive for inclusion in the garden. Beautiful, isn't it? Malak glided up beside him, his voice barely above a whisper. The shifting bloom from my homeworld. It adapts its shape to capture different light frequencies as our 3 suns move across the sky. Adaptability is a valuable trait, John said, thinking the old Paxian had chosen their meeting spot carefully. Malak's large eyes blinked slowly. Indeed. Please, walk with me. They moved deeper into the garden, where sound-dampening plants provided privacy. Samantha joined them, nodding respectfully to the elder alien. What I am about to tell you is not secret, precisely, Malak said, but it is forgotten. Deliberately, I suspect. John and Samantha exchanged glances. There is an ancient council law written in the early days when our member species were more competitive. The elder alien's skin rippled with what might have been amusement. Any species may claim leadership of a joint military action if they can demonstrate superior tactical capability. Define demonstrate, Samantha said quickly. Malak smiled, revealing teeth that sparkled like opals. A practical test, observed by council representatives. The law was written to prevent endless debates when action was needed. John leaned forward. And this law has never been repealed. The council never repeals laws. They simply forget them when convenient. Malak handed John a small crystal. This contains the full text and historical precedents. It has not been invoked in over 800 years. Why are you helping us? Samantha asked directly. The old alien looked suddenly tired. I have served on the council for 162 of your years. I have watched it grow increasingly slow, increasingly afraid of change. The pirates grow bold because they know our responses are predictable. He paused. And because some on the council benefit from their activities. Corruption? John asked, surprised. Economics, Malak corrected. Several species have invested heavily in security firms that profit from the continued threat. They don't control the pirates, but they ensure our response never truly ends the problem. Samantha's eyes narrowed. We need proof. That will be difficult to obtain, but perhaps unnecessary if you focus on the solution rather than the blame. Malak pointed to the crystal in John's hand. Invoke the law of tactical demonstration. Force them to let humans show what they can do. They'll resist, John said. Of course, but they cannot deny the law itself. Malak straightened. I must go. We should not be seen speaking at length. After the elder alien left, Samantha turned to John. We need to contact Earth immediately. If we're going to do a tactical demonstration, we need our best people. Captain Steve Rogers on the U.S. Intrepid, John said immediately. He's unconventional, exactly what we need. Their data pads chimed simultaneously. A message from Sam Baker appeared. Urgent. Security HH in your quarters. VOLRAN agent is DTT'd. They're already moving against us, Samantha said grimly. Good, John replied with a small smile. That means they're worried. Let's get back to the Earth section and secure ourselves. I need to call Commander Frank Harris at Intelligence Division. As they left the garden, neither noticed the small drone that hovered among the exotic plants, recording their entire conversation. In her private chambers, the Valoran representative watched the footage with growing alarm. "The humans know too much," she whispered to her aide. "Contact our associates in the Orion sector. Tell them to accelerate the operation, and find me someone who can ensure Ambassador Miller has an accident." The aide bowed and slipped away while the Valoran turned back to her screen, where John's face was frozen in mid-sentence. Her tentacles curled with determination. The upcoming council session would be more dangerous than anyone expected. The next morning, alarms blared across Centauri Prime as a massive ship dropped out of hyperspace uncomfortably close to the station. Many council representatives rushed to observation decks, concerned this might be a pirate attack reaching the heart of council space. What they saw left them speechless. The U.S. Intrepid hung in space, its sleek dark hull reflecting the light of the nearby sun. Though not the largest military vessel in the galaxy, something about its design suggested power and purpose. John and Samantha stood in the council chamber, waiting as representatives filed in with worried expressions. Speaker Zixtal called the session to order. "Ambassador Miller, would you care to explain why an Earth warship has arrived without proper notification?" The speaker's many eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of agitation. John smiled politely. "The Intrepid is here at my request, Speaker. According to Council Law Section 437B, any species proposing to lead a military action may demonstrate their tactical capability through practical exercise." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Valoran representative rose immediately. "That law has not been invoked in centuries. But it remains valid," said Malak calmly from his seat. "I have verified its status myself." John handed a data queue to the central console. "I formally request a tactical demonstration to prove human military leadership capabilities. The law gives the Council 24 hours to prepare a suitable challenge." Speaker Zixtal looked deeply uncomfortable. "The Council will recess for 1 hour to discuss this development." When the representatives returned, the atmosphere had changed. Many looked resigned, while others seemed almost curious. "The Council acknowledges Earth's right to request a tactical demonstration," Zixtal announced. "We have prepared a simulation scenario that will test your capabilities against our best tactical minds." Captain Steve Rogers entered the chamber, his uniform crisp and his expression confident. He was younger than most alien military leaders, just 34 years old, but his eyes showed experience beyond his years. "Captain Rogers will command the human forces," John explained. "He and his crew will face whatever challenge the Council presents." The Zentari representative stepped forward. "The simulation will take place in the Strategic Operations Center. Multiple Council species have contributed tactical experts to create a scenario that would challenge even our most experienced commanders." Steve nodded respectfully. "My crew and I look forward to the opportunity." The Strategic Operations Center was a massive sphere lined with holographic projectors. When the human delegation entered, they found representatives from 12 Council species already waiting. The simulation would pit the Intrepid against a theoretical pirate fleet 3 times its size. "The parameters are unfair," Samantha whispered to John. "They've given the pirates advanced weaponry that doesn't match intelligence reports." John smiled. "Did you expect a fair test?" Steve studied the scenario parameters, then gathered his bridge crew for a brief discussion. The aliens watched with thinly veiled amusement as the humans huddled together, occasionally pointing at the display and nodding. "They've already lost," the Valoran military advisor said loudly enough to be overheard. "No single ship could prevail against such odds." Steve approached the central console. "We're ready to begin." The simulation started. The Intrepid appeared in virtual space, facing a scattered pirate fleet. Instead of engaging immediately, Steve ordered the ship to retreat at full speed. "Running away already?" mocked the Kulari representative. Steve didn't respond. On the display, the Intrepid led the pursuing pirates toward a nearby asteroid field. What happened next stunned the watching aliens. Instead of navigating around the asteroids, the Intrepid darted between them at impossible speeds, executing maneuvers no Council ship would attempt. When the pirates followed, the Intrepid suddenly reversed course, firing precisely targeted weapons that caused a chain reaction of explosions among the asteroids. The simulation showed half the pirate fleet destroyed in under 3 minutes. "Impossible," shouted several alien observers at once. Steve looked at them calmly. "We've only just begun." The simulation continued for 4 hours. Each time the Council tactical experts adjusted their strategy, Steve and his crew adapted faster. The Intrepid used the environment in ways no Council ship ever had, skimming gas giant atmospheres to change direction, using solar flares as cover, and at one point deliberately detonating their own torpedo to create an electromagnetic pulse that disabled multiple enemy ships. When the simulation ended, the final score showed the Intrepid had destroyed the entire enemy fleet while sustaining only moderate damage. The Council representatives stood in stunned silence. "How?" the Zentari military advisor finally asked. "Those maneuvers violate standard tactical doctrine." "That's precisely the point," Steve said. "We don't follow your doctrines. Pirates know how Council ships fight. They don't know how we fight." Outside the Strategic Operations Center, word of the human victory spread quickly through Centauri Prime. John received an urgent message from Lisa Rodriguez, a young scientist who had been analyzing data from attacked colonies. John, Samantha, and Steve met Lisa in a secure room in the Earth section. Her face was pale with excitement. "I've been looking at the patterns of the attacks," Lisa said, pulling up a series of charts on the display. Something didn't add up. Why attack these specific colonies and ships? She pointed to a list of cargo manifests. "Look at what wasn't stolen. The pirates left valuable medical supplies and high-grade technology. Instead, they took common minerals and food supplies." "That makes no sense," Samantha said, frowning. "It does if the pirates aren't really pirates," Lisa replied. "I think they're supplying someone who needs basic resources but can't openly trade for them." Steve leaned forward. "Who?" "I don't know yet, but I found encrypted transmissions from a Council frequency during 3 separate attacks." Lisa looked at them gravely. "Someone on the Council is directing these pirates." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We need proof," John said finally. "Solid evidence that will stand up in front of the full Council." "I've been working with Officer Ben Martinez from Security," Lisa said. "He's good with code breaking. We might be able to trace the transmissions if we can access the central communications array." "Too dangerous," Steve said. "If the Volarans or their allies catch you, there won't be enough of you left to identify." The door chimed, and Sam Baker entered, looking worried. "We have a problem. The Volaran delegation just filed a formal protest against the tactical demonstration. They're claiming humans used illegal technology to cheat." John laughed without humor. "Of course they did." "There's more," Sam continued. "Security detected an unauthorized entry attempt at both your quarters, Ambassador, and at Samantha's. Someone is trying to get to you." Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered and alarms began to sound throughout the station. "Attention all personnel," announced the station's eye. "Unknown ships have appeared in the Centauri system. They match the profile of vessels involved in recent pirate attacks. All non-essential personnel please report to secure areas." Steve's communicator beeped. "Captain, the Intrepid is picking up 12 ships approaching the station. They're not responding to hails." Malak appeared at the doorway, his normally calm face showing concern. "Ambassador Miller, the Council has called an emergency session. The pirates have never attacked a core system before." John exchanged looks with his team. "They're here because we're getting too close to the truth." As they moved toward the Council chamber, Lisa pulled John aside. Ben decrypted part of a transmission. He found coordinates in the Volaran sector, a hidden base. "And there's something else. the latest weapons used by the pirates. They're Valoran military prototypes that officially don't exist. Get that information to the Intrepid, John whispered. And Lisa, be careful. The emergency council session was already in chaos when they arrived. On the main display, the approaching ships had formed an attack pattern. The largest ship transmitted a message that played throughout the chamber. Council representatives, this is Commander Vex. Surrender the human delegates immediately, or we will demonstrate what happens to those who interfere with our operations. The Valoran representative rose smoothly. Perhaps we should consider their demands to protect the station. John stepped forward, his eyes locked on the Valoran. Or perhaps we should ask why pirates are using prototype Valoran weapons and taking orders from Valoran officials. The council chamber erupted into shouting. The Valoran representative's face tentacles turned almost white with anger as she pointed at John. How dare you make such accusations? This is a desperate attempt to distract from your warmongering. Speaker Zixtal banged his gavel repeatedly. Order. We must have order. John stood firm. The evidence is being compiled as we speak. But right now, we have more pressing concerns. He pointed to the display showing the approaching pirate ships. Those vessels will reach the station in less than 20 minutes. The station's shields will hold, said the Quilleri representative confidently. Steve stepped forward. The pirates wouldn't attack unless they knew they could succeed. They must have shield frequencies or access codes. The chamber fell silent as this sank in. Centauri Prime housed thousands of diplomats, scientists, and support staff from across the galaxy. If the shields failed, many would die. The Intrepid stands ready to defend the station. Steve continued, but we need authorization to coordinate with station defenses. The council representatives looked at each other uncertainly. No human had ever commanded defenses for a council facility. Malak stood slowly. I move that Captain Rogers be granted temporary command of Centauri Prime's defense systems as per the tactical demonstration law. Seconded, said the Centauri representative, surprising everyone. Before the speaker could call for a vote, the station shook violently. They'd fired on us, Sam Baker reported, checking his datapad. Shields holding but already down 12%. Vote now, John urged. All in favor? Zixtal asked quickly. Hands, tentacles, and various appendages rose across the chamber. Even some who had opposed humans now voted yes, fear overcoming prejudice. Granted, Zixtal announced. Captain Rogers, the defense of Centauri Prime is in your hands. Steve immediately contacted his ship, Intrepid, moved to position Alpha. All station weapons, link targeting systems to Intrepid Command. On the display, the elegant human ship moved to intercept the pirate fleet. 3 council defense vessels joined it, following Steve's commands despite their captain's obvious reluctance. The battle that followed stunned the watching council. Steve positioned his ships in formations no council tactician had ever considered. The Intrepid darted between enemy vessels, drawing fire, and then slipping away as station weapons targeted the distracted pirates. He's using the station's mass to disrupt their sensor readings, some method explained to the amazed representatives, and using minimal power on approach to mask his ship's signature until the last moment. In the midst of the battle, Officer Ben Martinez burst into the chamber, running straight to John. Ambassador, we traced the transmission. It's definitely coming from the Valoran flagship, but not from their government. It's from the Guild of Resource Management. John's eyes widened. The shipping monopoly. Ben nodded. They've been staging the attacks to drive up prices and eliminate competition. The Valoran military provided ships and weapons in exchange for a percentage of profits. John turned to face the Valoran representative, who was backing toward the exit. Station security officers moved to block her escape. This is an outrage, she hissed. You have no authority over me. I have diplomatic immunity. The battle outside reached its climax. The pirate commander, seeing his forces failing, targeted his remaining weapons directly at the council chamber. The station shook again, more violently this time. "Shields failing in Section 7, reported the station's AI calmly. Steve's voice came over the comm system. "Intrepid moving to intercept. All station personnel brace for impact." On the display, the human ship positioned itself between the pirate flagship and the station. It took the full force of the attack meant for the council chamber. "Intrepid reporting heavy damage," Steve's first officer announced. "Captain Rogers is injured, but we're still in the fight." The Intrepid, despite smoking breaches in its hull, fired all remaining weapons at the pirate flagship. The enemy vessel exploded in a burst of light that temporarily blinded the external cameras. When the view cleared, the remaining pirate ships were fleeing or surrendering. The Intrepid hung in space, damaged but victorious. The council chamber was completely silent. Then, slowly, representatives began to applaud. The sound grew until it filled the room. "Perhaps," said Malak quietly to John, "the council has finally found the wake-up call it needed." 3 days after the battle, Centauri Prime was still under repair. The council had called an emergency session to address the Valoran conspiracy and the pirate threat. John entered the chamber with Samantha and Steve, who now wore a bandage across his forehead. The captain had refused to stay in medical when such important matters were being discussed. Ambassador Patricia Harris had arrived from Earth on a diplomatic shuttle, bringing with her a message from the Earth government. She stood tall and confident as she took her place beside John at the Earth platform. Speaker Zix Tall called the session to order. "We face an unprecedented crisis. A council member has been implicated in criminal activities that have cost many lives. The evidence appears conclusive." The Valoran representative was notably absent, replaced by a junior diplomat who looked deeply uncomfortable. "The Valoran Imperium wishes to express its shock and dismay at the actions of certain elements within our government," the junior diplomat said. "Those responsible will be brought to justice." Patricia stepped forward. "Earth appreciates the Valoran statement, but words are insufficient. The conspiracy involved members of your military, your shipping monopoly, and your council delegation. This suggests a systemic problem, not a few bad actors." "What exactly are you suggesting, Ambassador Harris?" asked the Dovan representative. "Earth is no longer requesting permission to lead an anti-pirate task force. We are demanding it as our right, proven through combat and sacrifice." Patricia's voice was firm. "Furthermore, we demand the Valoran Imperium pay reparations to all affected colonies and shipping companies." The junior Valoran diplomat sputtered in protest, but many representatives were nodding in agreement. "The humans have proven themselves," said the Zentari representative, crystalline form glimmering. "Their ship took damage meant for this chamber. Many of us would not be alive without their actions." Malak rose slowly, leaning on his ornate staff. "I propose we formalize a human-led security task force, with ships contributed by all willing council members. This task force will have authority to patrol all council space and respond to threats without waiting for committee approval." The proposal was revolutionary. Never before had the council delegated such authority. "I second the proposal," said the Zentari, surprising everyone again. The vote was not unanimous, but it passed with a clear majority. John could hardly believe it. In just 1 week, humans had gone from barely tolerated newcomers to leading a multi-species security force. Lisa Rodriguez entered the chamber with Ben Martinez, both looking excited. They approached John and spoke in low voices. "We've compiled all the evidence," Lisa said. "The Valoran Guild was funneling resources to build up a secret military force beyond their official fleet. They were planning something big." "How big?" John asked. "Based on the supply chain we've uncovered, they could have armed and supplied enough ships to challenge the combined council fleets within 5 years," Ben replied. "They've been planning this for decades." John shared this information with Patricia, whose expression darkened. She requested to address the council again. "We have discovered evidence of a much larger conspiracy," she announced. "The pirate attacks were not just for profit. They were covering the creation of a secret Valoran armada that could have threatened the entire council." The chamber erupted again. The junior Voleran diplomat tried to deny everything, but his protests sounded hollow. Earth proposes an immediate inspection of all Voleran military facilities. Patricia continued over the noise. Any resistance should be met with the full force of the new security task force. The Quilleri representative buzzed angrily. The humans have been members for only 5 years, and already they dictate terms to founding species. Steve stepped forward, his voice calm despite his injuries. We don't want to dictate terms. We want to protect everyone, including the Volerans from their own corrupt leaders. Humanity has shown not just military skill, but also integrity, Malak said. They fought to protect this station even when many here doubted them. Perhaps that is exactly the leadership this council needs. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council stood at a crossroads. The old ways were crumbling, and humanity was at the center of the change. 1 month after the battle at Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council gathered for a special session. The Great Chamber had been repaired, but other changes were impossible to miss. The Voleran platform stood empty, the Imperium's membership suspended pending further investigation. Several new security officers, human and alien, stood at key positions around the room. John entered with Patricia and Samantha, now joined by Commander Eric Phillips, who had been appointed to lead the new Joint Security Force. Behind them walked Captain Steve Rogers, fully recovered and recently promoted for his actions. Speaker Zick Stahl, who had developed a newfound respect for humans, called the session to order. We gather today to formalize the changes approved by emergency vote. The Joint Security Force is now officially established under Commander Phillips' leadership. Ships from 17 Council species have been committed to the Force. Eric stepped forward. We've already begun joint training exercises. The different species are learning to work together in ways they never have before. And the pirate bases? Asked the Centauri representative. All 12 known bases have been neutralized, Eric replied. The secret Voleran shipyards have been dismantled, and their prototype weapons technology has been impounded. John took his place at the Earth platform, which had been moved from the outer edge to a more central position in the chamber. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. Earth has a proposal for the Council, John said. Not a demand this time, but an invitation to consider a new way forward. Patricia activated the central display, showing a new organizational structure for the Council. For too long, this body has operated on consensus that led to inaction. Important decisions were delayed while people died. We propose a reformed council with checks and balances. The display showed a 3-branch system, a general assembly where all species had representation, an executive committee elected by rotation to make rapid decisions, and a justice division to ensure accountability. No single species should dominate, Patricia continued, but neither should the council be paralyzed by endless debate. The chamber was quiet as the representatives studied the proposal. It was revolutionary, yet also strangely familiar to students of Earth political history. Malak was the first to speak. In my long life, I have seen the council grow increasingly rigid. Perhaps it is time for new ideas from our younger members. Why should we adopt human governmental models? The Quilleri representative's mandibles clicked with skepticism. Your planet still has wars and conflicts. Precisely, Samantha replied. We know the dangers of both tyranny and disorder. Our systems aren't perfect, but they've helped us balance freedom with stability. The debate continued for hours. Unlike previous sessions, representatives spoke freely, without the rigid protocols that had dominated council proceedings for centuries. Steve leaned toward John. They're actually listening to each other. I've never seen that before. John nodded. Sometimes it takes a crisis to create change. When the voting came, the reformed council structure passed with a 2/3 majority. It would take time to implement, but the path forward was clear. As the session ended, many representatives approached the human delegation with questions and comments. Some were still wary, but others seemed almost relieved that the old order was changing. Malak pulled John aside. When you first arrived 5 years ago, I thought humans were just another primitive species that would eventually learn to follow our ways. I was wrong. We still have much to learn from the Council, John said. Perhaps, Malak replied with a smile. But you have reminded us of something we had forgotten, that principles must sometimes be defended with action, not just words. Outside the chamber, Earth's first graduating class of alien diplomatic students waited to meet the Council. Samantha had established the program to help bridge cultural gaps between species. Looking at their eager faces, human, Zentari, Quillari, and even a young Valoran, John felt a surge of hope. The galaxy was changing. Humanity had found its place among the stars not by conquest or dominance, but by demonstrating both strength and wisdom when it mattered most. And the Galactic Council would never be the same again.